Welcome, gentlemen, to 21 Convention Radio. I am your host, Christian McQueen, and I'm joined by Goldmund,
Hello.
GoldmundUnleashed.com, and Rollo Tomassi from TheRationalMale.com. How you guys doing?
I want to first apologize for my voice because, like I was just telling you a minute ago, I've spent the last almost 6 days trying to keep my voice above a certain decibel level, and I've just been. I think if I can sum it up in one word, it's overwhelming because it's just nonstop, just being cornered by guys and just talking all the time and just answering questions and shaking hands. So, yeah, it's been a great experience.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in the same boat. Like, it's just been nonstop talking, and all the guys have been interesting. That's the thing. You want to have that conversation because they have so much to say, and they want to hear it from you, and it's just like talk. In a good way. It gives you energy, though.
True.
But, so basically, you guys are tired of talking. So we're going to talk for the next hour.
Yeah. So let's talk some more.
We're going to talk about a few different things. We're going to kick it off starting with this convention, the 21 Convention. This was my first year attending as a speaker and attending period.
Same here.
This is your first year and your first year. So I'm curious to get you guys' opinions on, what were your expectations and were those met? Were they exceeded? And kind of overall, how you'd sum it up. Start with you.
I was definitely surprised by this. I don't think it's any secret that I had my reservations about attending, but I think that with the quality of the speakers and just like the variety, and everybody has their own kind of red pill niche, that was really exciting. Just to see how people go about it in different angles. The other thing is that I think that it's not just one guy getting up and talking for an hour. It's all the conversations and everything, as you can see by my voice, all of the conversations that come afterwards or in between speakers or in the evening. There's always something going on. I know you had your things going on and you were carousing as well. As always. There's a lot more that goes on than just, it's not just you're going to sit there and watch speakers all day long. You're going to be able to engage and you're going to be able to talk and I have to say, I was not ready for it. I knew that was going to happen, but I was like, to the degree that people were hitting me up, and it's almost like in between speakers and in between days. I only gave 2 speeches, but I feel like I gave like probably 20 speeches because I could walk from one room to the next, and guys would hit me up and say, "Hey, I got a question about this. I got a question about that." And so there's that kind of accessibility that you don't get in any other form or any other media, I think. And it's all one-on-one, and it was great. It was great shaking hands, and it was great hearing stories, and it's guys getting together and just having a good time for sure, but it's also very educational. And so I think that it well exceeded what I thought,
Nice.
Any expectations that I had.
What about you?
Well, I was really excited to see all this come together in like a physical form because we've all known each other on the internet.
Right.
And I really, truly believe this is something special. Like what's going on, what all we're writing about, what we're talking about, it is truly something special. Like there's nothing else going on. I think it's like it's a revolution.
Yeah.
So to see these guys together, like that energy that gets in the room it was awesome to feel and experience. Made me feel really good. I mean, it inspired me to do more. So it's been awesome. Yeah.
You're going home with the bullwhip, so.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the bullwhip.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Well, I want to hear from you. Where did this come from? Yes.
We've been calling you the Indiana Jones of the Red Pill for a very long time. Yes. And every time you post something or you've got some new story to tell, because you're like the storyteller of the Red Pill as well.
Yes.
And just the shit that you do, man. Though you just go off to do your adventures and do whatever you want. Like that's crazy. Just wherever you go, and when you live stream and you live tweet from when you do your I guess for lack of a better term, American tours when you go around. And so I think it was me that coined the term calling you your Red Pill Indiana because you got the hat and everything. And I was thinking, the only thing this guy doesn't have is the bullwhip. So right after that, I just went online and found a company that makes those. That's an actual real bullwhip.
Yeah, it's made in Mexico.
When he was giving his speech, right before he was to give his talk, I came up and gave him a bullwhip and said, here's your honorary here's your honorary bullwhip.
Yeah, it is perfect because like when you said Indiana Jones, I am on a quest for treasure. I want truth. And like, this is what with this, I want truth. And this is what I'm looking for. Like, whatever I'm doing, this is what on the search. That's why I love this convention. All these guys are speaking the truth, and that's what we need. And I don't know how I'm going to use this, but it's coming out with me one night.
Oh yeah, you should.
Oh yeah,
it's
coming out with me.
It'd be a good conversation. You know, I'll tell you the funny thing is, I had this thing sitting on my nightstand. Because you were on the last day, you were on Sunday. I had this thing on my nightstand the whole time. It just made me wonder what the housekeeping ladies thought me and my wife were doing.
Oh yeah, I've got a little one of these.
The whole time.
I've got a little one.
Like, oh my God.
That thing's dangerous, by the way. Very
it's considered
dangerous.
a weapon,
Yeah.
technically.
Yeah.
So be careful with that.
Let's see what happens.
I kind of have a different perspective on everything because, to be honest, coming into it, I had no idea what to expect. I really, based on not necessarily events I've attended, but events I've seen footage of, kind of the type of people I've seen attend other type of events that are maybe in this vein. I was very kind of hesitant in a sense because at the end of the day, I don't want to be surrounded by a bunch of weird fuckers for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
So coming into it though, I know you recommended me and I believe Goldmund to Anthony, and then I had Anthony on the podcast. And I'm like, you know what? Like, he's a really solid dude. I think I have a pretty good sense of character and of someone's, true personality. So it's like, all right, let's do it, right? So it was all kind of a leap of faith to come do the convention. But I was completely blown away by the organization of the event, the professionalism, Anthony, and the quality of the attendees. Because you really never know. I mean, when you invite people via the internet, hey, come to this city and we're all going to hang out and we're going to learn, you really could get some really fucking weird people because there's some weirdos on the internet.
Yeah, well, that's actually a discussion that needs to be happening. I think really when you're organizing something like this, there's a lot of personalities and there's a lot of guys who are just, I mean, I can talk to you guys like I've known you my whole life, but then there's the guys that don't have the same degree of like social intelligence that other people, I mean, just to say it as nicely as I possibly can. And so there's a lot of people that, are, everybody in this room, you don't know that everybody in this room right now is, they're all solid guys. They're all guys I feel like I've known like all of you dudes, like for, ever. And this is the first time I met like most of these guys. And I mean, I met you guys before, but I mean, that was one time in 2015, in Vegas. I met you twice, I guess. But you don't know what you're getting into. And so you don't know each guy's state. And that's actually one of the things that I try to do when I'm here and I'm talking to guys is I kind of try to evaluate where they are. So when I have the guys come up to me and they want to shake my hand, they want to say, Rollo, thank you for saving my life. Here's, can I buy you a drink? Can I, what can I do to? I'm like, dude, the best thing you could do is you can tell me about yourself and you can tell me about what your experience is and how. I always say that if somebody's coming up to me and meeting me for the first time, if you've read my book, it's almost like we have some sort of connection to begin with. So I'm not like weirded out by like just meeting new people. And so my first question to them is always, how did you come to reading my book? How did you come to the Red Pill? How did you come to the Manosphere? Maybe they went through, me personally, or they went through the Red Pill subred, or maybe they found you, maybe they found me. It's like there's all this interconnected stuff that's going on. So my first question to them is always, I want to hear your story. I want to hear your background, and usually from that I can sort of get a feel for where that guy is, whether he's really hurting,
right.
Or whether he's just on top of his game and said, man, this is great. I'm so glad that now I know why, why things happen in the progression that they do and why women are this way or that. So
absolutely. Yeah, I think the biggest thing that came across to me, because I was getting, as you say, cornered, but guys would come up to me throughout the entire week, even in the bathroom. Hey, bro, let me ask you a question. I'm like, yeah, hang on a second. But was it the hunger? Right, the hunger for knowledge and the very like respectful attitudes. I mean, everyone was very respectful, very appreciative. Thank you for your time, and that real hunger for truth and to to learn how to really be the best man they can be. And that's really what I believe this convention's all about. So the point is, for me, after having experienced it, I was very impressed. Because I was coming in here with it's not like I through the event, we had the man-to-man seminar in Vegas years ago. So I was invested in that, right? That was my event. But this, I was able to come in and kind of look at it from behind the scenes. And I was really impressed. Really quality people. And also the other speakers.
Yes, very much
people
so.
that I've known on Twitter, like Ivan Throne. You know, people can come across a certain way through the Twitter medium, through even their blogs. I had multiple people come up to me here and they were like, man, I really expected to hate you. They're like, I like you. I'm like, all right. But you know, so people can come across a certain way, but being able to meet them in real life and find out like, oh wow, this guy's a really fucking solid dude, or you really connect with them. The Family Alpha, Socrates, I didn't get much. Every time we were going to talk, there's like 50 million people around him, but great people. So I think it's been quite an experience. Although my liver is fucked.
Yeah.
Other than that, liver's completely shot.
I behaved myself right up until Friday because I knew I had to deliver. But man, yeah, it's a fun weekend. If you can come out and you can make a plan for something like this, I would definitely say you have to do it at least once. If you're part of this community, if you're part of the Manosphere, you really owe it to yourself to do it.
Absolutely. I don't think it hurts at all to plan in advance too, and you know, as soon as the dates come out, I know the tickets are always cheapest in the beginning. To get your ticket and plan it out and just plan for a real experience.
Oh yeah, it was an experience.
It was an experience.
some.
This guy knocked on my door at like 2 a.m. this morning while I had a girl in there. And then when I throw the bag of Doritos at your head?
I don't know. You just kept giving me cigarettes, and the girl was just the look on her face.
She was just like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, who are you guys?
I know.
Oh my God. Was your what does your wife say about everything? Did she have a good experience?
This is her first time really encountering people that I've been talking about for a long time. Like I'll say, I'm go see Christian, or I'm talking to Goldmund, or I'm talking to half a dozen other people on Twitter, and she, I engage a lot on Twitter, and I engage a lot through my blog and my comment section. Those are my main ways of talking to people, and so just meeting the people that I've been talking about for the longest time in person, and now she's sort of saying, okay, I get it, I understand. Because I think a lot of people have preconceptions about this kind of thing, because they think it's a bunch of nerds, or they think it's a bunch of, why would guys need to go to a seminar to learn to pick up girls? They should just know how to do that. If they don't, then they're fags, or then they're what's Asperger or Spurgs if they don't. It's like, no, that's not what it's about. I mean, there's like I said, there's such a depth and breadth of different guys from all over the place. I mean, I was talking to guys who flew in from Great Britain just to be at this, and I think Orlando. By the way, I lived in Orlando for 8 years. If you didn't know, but I think Orlando is a great place because it's a hub. It's a central part where everybody, other than Las Vegas, God bless them right now, it's one of the convention capitals of the world, and so is Vegas, and I think they're pretty evenly matched.
Right.
Yeah.
Is your wife's cool with this though?
Oh yeah.
Like, she knows that.
That's like,
when I met her, I was
everybody
like,
says that.
She's
Everybody
just like,
asks me
"Oh,
that.
you're Goldmund, huh?" And I was like wondering what.
Well, because you had come through Reno when I first met you, and I put you up at the Peppermill, and she's like, "Who are we putting?"
You picked him up at the Peppermill?
No, I put him up. I got him a couple nights
at the Peppermill.
Yeah.
It has rooms.
Yes.
I thought Peppermill's was just the diner.
No. It's a huge casino.
Oh, yeah,
It's gorgeous. One of the premier properties in Reno.
Oh, in Reno. I'm thinking
in Reno.
Peppermill's in Vegas.
No, it's not. No.
Okay,
That's just called. It's a very, very nice. Even and I took him out to sushi and everything. She's like, "Who is this guy?" And I'm like, "Well, it's a guy that I know."
Putting up in a room.
That was even before the Man in Demand conference.
Yeah,
because that was in July or like the summer before we did the Man in Demand conference, and I said, "No, I'm going to put him up. He's a good dude." And so I went and talked with you, and we did that little impromptu video just by the wash or whatever we were
on the side of the road.
Like, let's just go do it. I'm like, all right. But yeah, is she cool with it? Of course she's cool with it, man. I've got 3 books. She's got to be cool with it. It's been going on I've been blogging, and I've been blogging for 6.5 years now, or close to 6.5 years. And I've been a part of the So Suave forum, since 2002.
Wow.
And I was a moderator for that. I'm not really as active on that forum as I used to be. I still go there and, sort of lurk once in a while to just to see how people are doing. But I've been in this in the manosphere. It wasn't even called the manosphere back then. It wasn't even called Red Pill back then. Since 2002, 2001, somewhere around there. And that's where I started picking up my, I was in school at the time. I was working on a dual degree, and one of those degrees was in behavioral psychology. And so it was really interesting because to me, I see all this psychological stuff that was going on these forums and these guys, and a lot of that like inspiration and that material ended up becoming a lot of parts of the books and everything else. But yeah, she's always been along with it. She's I'm talking about my wife. She is. She comes from a. It's all right. It's all right. She comes. Her father's very, very alpha, and she comes from an old school kind of,
All right. All right. So I got a question before. All right. So for all of us, like coming to stuff like this and seeing it in real life, like how do you think that's going to affect how you put yourself out there after this? Because I know there's the pre-anonymous world. I've been there, and then the post.
Well, as you probably already know, this is the first time I'm showing my face live. I've got 3 books out. I think it's probably time that I can be a little bit more out there. I feel kind of conflicted about that because I've always been so, guarded. I'm in a position in my life right now where I work for myself, so I don't have to worry about getting doxxed and having people go, "Oh my God, you get him fired," You see, that happens a lot. People see your face, they do facial recognition, they go, "Oh, there's that guy," and get you expelled from school or however they can possibly ruin your life. And we always tend to think of it in terms of you could lose your job. Well, I don't have to worry too much about that, but I still have other vulnerabilities when it comes to like my daughter, my wife, my family. I don't want them poisoning my dogs or something like that. So that's where that dude lives. There's lots of ways people can get to you that aren't just your job. But I'm at a point where I don't have really much choice but to put my face out there now. I'm not gonna put my face on my avatar on Twitter anytime soon because it's just this is my brand and put this on this side.
Is it going to change your work at all though? Like your output? I
don't know. I don't think so.
Okay.
I wouldn't think so. I'm primarily a writer as it is. I'm not really I open all of my speeches with I'm not a motivational speaker. I'm not a guru of any degree. I'm not here to save your life. I'm here to help you save your own life, kind of thing. And really, when guys come up to me and they say, "Hey, thank you so much. You saved my life. I was literally going to kill myself, and then I read your book, and it explained everything so well." And that is a very common story, a very common, gratitude I get here. I didn't set out. I didn't go, "Okay, I'm going to put this book out. I'm going to try to save people's lives." I didn't do that. I just put this out because I thought that this was going to give guys the tools that they need to understand game and to go out and use this to their advantage, and not just picking up girls, but dealing with women on a day-to-day basis. There's material in here that you can use to work with your female boss or your mom or your sisters or whoever, just the waitress at the waiting your table. Just knowing stuff, the nuts and bolts and what's under the hood. So that's not gonna change at all. In fact, I'm kind of wary about talking about being a writer. I'm really wary about getting too wrapped up in like the politics of the red pill and trying to promote it as a brand, because that's not my thing. My thing is writing, and it's sitting and coming up with ideas and writing them down and putting it together. And people were asking me what's next for you. I got 3 books right now, and the audio, I should say, for Preventive Medicine just came out, and Sam Boda is all. You guys know Sam. Yeah. He's the reader once again, and that was pretty exciting. I really wanted to have this out for the convention, but I've got a 4th book that's in the works right now, and it's going to be very specific. I always think of this as the core rule set, and then these are the supplements to the rule set.
That actually leads me into my question. So for people who are not familiar with the books, break it down for them in terms of what each book really encompasses.
Okay. The Rational Male, when I first wrote this was a collection of my...
So this is your first
book. Yeah, that is the first book. The Rational Male is really the core works. It goes through hypergamy, it goes through one-itis, it goes through, all of the, I have 9, what I call 9 Iron Rules of Tomassi, those are all in there. It's pretty much what I compiled through my time at So Suave, and then about 4 years of the blog is in this. And it's putting these principles, together so that people can almost use it as, I don't want to say a textbook, but for lack of a better term, as a text, like a core rule book kind of thing. So I always tell people just to read this one first. And the funny thing about this, I see guys at this convention who are carrying it around, and each one of these things is just like all dog-eared and folded over and highlighted and liner notes in the margins and stuff like that. And they always tell me, I'll read part of it, and I read through it, but I keep coming back to this part. Can you tell me more about this part? Or what about this? And they for each kind of stage or whatever a guy is going through, there's certain aspects of this that guys get into, and maybe they don't need to worry about one-itis because they never had that, but they want to know how hypergamy works, or they want to know the psychological aspects of things. So it's really what I call a living text. It keeps going and it keeps going.
Even when I still have this, but I still go back to it, and I still, if I want to go out and have an interesting conversation, just because I feel inspired to talk about relationships between men and women, I'll go back to your book and I'll find some section, and I'll be like, okay, we can talk about this, and that'll be my topic for the night, and it always sparks up something interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's like when you tell a girl this stuff, they just they've never heard it before, and I
understand it.
Yeah, and I encourage everybody to have that conversation with girls.
Yes.
Do it in a pleasant manner, of course. Almost joking, because you can't take it if you do it seriously. They're going to get offended, but if you do it in the right way, it sparks up the most interesting conversations.
Yeah, I always talk about the story of the guy that I knew whose girlfriend took his book from him and was reading through it, and she confronted him with the book, and she's like, everything in this book is true, but you shouldn't know any of the stuff that's in here, because it's like giving away all the secrets, right?
I love it.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, I think of this as sort of the core book. It's the living text that people go through. So pretty much everything all the other books that I have written or that I will write find their foundation. They pre-understand that you've already read this.
Right.
So I just presume that you've read this when I go into these. Preventive Medicine was number 2. Again, this just came out on Audible. This was a direct response to guys saying, Rollo, you're brilliant, I loved your stuff, but I wish I would have had this when I was 20 years old, or I wish I would have known all this shit before I got divorced, or before I got married and had these kids, or before my wife left me, or whatever. I wish I would have known all this stuff before. And that was the most common thing I'd ever get. I'm like, well, I can't turn back time and go give it to you. But so I thought, well, the least I can do is create a timeline to let guys know just what they can expect, basically what to expect from women being their most predictable things at predictable ages. So I run from 15 to 50, and just what guys can expect from a woman who is 18.
Really sorry to interrupt. Real quick, do you mind signing my personal copies?
Oh, yeah, I can do that. Are these yours? Okay, yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Anyway, so I'll just say that I put a timeline in here, and it's just the most basic things that you can expect from a woman. And this tends to be one of the books that I get a lot of, I think the most questions for, because they're looking at stages of maturity where the girls are in their party years between 18 and maybe 26, 27, and then they're what I call the epiphany phase, when they just decide that they have to cash out of the casino and they have to cash out of the sexual marketplace. And then from 30 on, what you can expect from a woman who's trying to settle down with their beta. And then, when guys get into the later stages, well, why is my wife divorcing me? Well, because she's going through this phase right here, these kinds of things. And just basically so that they get an idea of what to expect. Nice. And then the third book is, I call it Positive Masculinity, and that was actually inspired by the Man to Demand conference. Because I had fathers we had fathers bringing sons and sons bringing fathers, and I met a bunch of guys, a bunch of fathers there who who told me, when do you think would be a great time to give your book to my son? Because I don't want them to have to go through the kind of shit that I had to go through. Their mom badmouths them all the time, and and so I'm like, well, whenever you think you can, but you really need to get to your kids or get to your sons and daughters really at a much earlier age right now, because what I call the village, it takes a village to raise a kid. The village right now is the media and academia, their school teachers, watching Disney, all that kind of stuff that's influencing kids in direction of what I call the feminine primary social order. And so that's primarily why I wrote at least the first quarter of this book. It's called The Red Pill Parent, and to help those guys to basically prevent their kids from having to go through that kind of stuff for themselves. And then Andrew Hansen, the guy who we actually dedicated this entire convention to, I dedicated this book to him. He was the private man, and he passed away back in April, or was it March or April? March. And I dedicated it to him. And as I was writing through this, I realized that guys kind of need to understand what masculinity has become today, and how we see the popular image of the father who's supposed to be the family patriarch, and the guy looks like a bumbling idiot. He looks like Homer Simpson, or we ridicule that guy. And it's not even just the father archetype, it's just the man archetype. Right. And so conventional masculinity today that we would call, sometimes we'll call traditional masculinity, is really something that is negative. And I'm sure you've heard toxic masculinity, hyper masculinity, or this bro culture kind of shit. And those are real distortions, I think, of masculinity today. And it's either that, or the feminine imperative is trying to obscure and blur what masculinity was and is and can be for men. And I think a lot of guys right now are very confused what masculinity is, so they think that masculinity is bullying, or it's like overbearing, or that kind of stuff. And it's just this distortion of what real good positive. You can be masculine, you can be patriarchal, and you can be beneficial, and you can still be there is a positive masculinity. Even just saying masculinity these days is like a no-no. It's like it's evil.
Yep, I got that a lot this weekend. When I told girls when I was out meeting, they're like, what are you here in Orlando for? I was like, yeah, I'm here for a conference on masculinity. As soon as I said that word, they're like, oh.
Did
you
I got physical. Did you say like, what's wrong?
Yeah, I was like, I was like, positive masculinity. We're here being men. Of course, I challenge them, because that's what I do. Challenge girls. Some of them were bitches, and then other ones were like really receptive, like the one on Friday night that I just pulled from the thing.
No, you just say it. You just say the word masculinity.
Yes, an automatic reaction. This last book that you wrote was interesting for me, because when I was reading it, the first huge chunk of it was for parents. Right. Okay, and obviously I'm not a parent.
That you know of.
Well, yeah, exactly. Good point. But it was cool to read it, because when I was reading it, it made me reflect on my own parents and like all these mistakes my father made. Because my father was super alpha in every way except dealing with women. And your book touched on that, and it was like a healing process. Yep. So like I knew that was a problem growing up, so I could it helped me. I had all this, it was a bad influence, but fuck it, he didn't really have a choice, because who knew back in the 80s what was going on?
It's funny you should say that, because I was having a conversation with my wife one time. I was talking about my dad, my own father. And my dad was a really confused guy. He was very old school, very old books, very old social contract kind of guy, where you go to work every day, you get a pension, you don't change jobs like we just change jobs like we change our clothes these days. Very old school, very much a beta provider in that term, but he didn't see any other way. He was never going to be a cat. He was never going to go run around. And not that he couldn't have done that. He probably could have, but he was very confused when it came to women. He had a very, very deep savior schema. He very much would, like, I go and do this, I fix your flat tire, and you maybe give me sex or your phone number, whatever. And so it was always like this transactional thing for him. And even when he was married, like I still to this day cannot believe my dad married my mom. But going through this and writing this book, I had the same experience too. That's funny you had that.
The healing process.
Yeah. Well, I knew who my dad was from the time I was 16. Really, I figured it out. But just knowing the mechanics of all the things that happened between my mom and my dad when they split up. My mom was a very conservative Christian girl when she went to a Christian high school and all this stuff back in the 50s and everything. Wow. And she was with my dad, who was very much a strong beta provider, and went to work every day, brought home the paycheck every day, and everything has to very, very orderly. Everything had to be in order. And my mom, on the other hand, was just kind of, she's a lovable ditz, lovable, but kind of lost in space sometimes. And seeing her with my dad, I'm like, how did this happen in the first place? But then when they split up, my mom goes straight for the alpha disco king in the 70s, and she lived with her boyfriend, who was this guy who's, if you think of like the epitome of the 70s disco Studio 51 dude, who's like that, shirts open and gold. And he was a good looking dude, don't get me wrong, and he was very, very alpha, super alpha, and it was like the exact polar opposite. And so, being red pill and coming to where I am in life right now, and I look back at that and I go, that is exactly, I mean, it's this to the letter. It is this. So.
Did he ever remarry?
My dad?
Yeah.
My dad did, yes. He remarried once, and then he got divorced again from that because, again, he lost his ability to provide. He was... and
he put his value on that.
He put his entire identity into his work, and he was a very high-powered executive kind of guy for hospitals and things like that. And one day the hospital got bought out, and they fired off everybody in the hospital, and they brought in a whole new staff. And that was the end for him. He basically was retired at 55, 56 years old, and his life was just over from that point. Yeah. And then he ended up passing away from Alzheimer's. So
it's crazy. Yeah. It's such a thing with that baby boomer generation that a lot of these guys who have these problems now, because it stems from the parents, because they didn't have that proper dynamic. Right. That baby boomer generation, the guys were turned into betas. Yeah. Like just that whole very generation, much. Those are our fathers. So now we're doing this big reaction. That's why I think stuff like this is amazing. The 21 convention
is that what you mentioned it being a revolution?
The revolution, yeah. We're finally fighting back. We see the truth. Like Rollo put the truth out there, and now there's guys like us doing shit about it. And so I think it's a very, very special thing. Yeah.
Do you think that it'll spread more? I mean, we already see it, but do you think it'll spread more over the next couple of years from being more in the shadows to being more in the mainstream and more widely accepted? Like, do you think there'll be a point where it tips over, or do you think it's always going to be a struggle and will always be, a small subsect of society?
I don't think it's ever going to get mainstream, but there's going to be enough people outside of the mainstream who are sick of this shit. Right. And we have the internet now, which has changed everything. Right. You just Google something, you could find this. So there's going to be a major, I think more and more people are going to find this. And if somebody doesn't make it happen, I'm going to do my best to make it happen. Yeah. No, I'm serious. This is fucking important.
I honestly think that it should stay out of the mainstream. I would very much like to keep it, as something that is, I don't want to say it's secret knowledge, but I want to say that I think that one of the strengths of the red pill is that people have to seek it out. They have to be looking for it, because we don't advertise. It's not like you find the red pill in a magazine or something like that. You're not going to, an ad. Yeah, Sky Mall, a red pill, right? Yeah.
Order it now.
But so that kind of predisposes guys to, be a little bit more open to what you're talking about. Because most of the guys that I was talking to, asking for their personal stories, it was, I had lost my wife, or I'd lost my job, and then I lost my wife, or my wife cheated on me, or I was suicidal, or some variation of that. And they're all seeking it. They're all looking for some kind of answers. And I'm going to write a post about a fellow that I met at this convention who was literally planning his death day. He had it planned out. This is the day I'm going to kill myself. And here's how I'm gonna write this to my kids and make sure. He was just basically playing. He was so fucking nice that he didn't want to inconvenience anybody with his death. So he made a perfect little plan for it, and what he was going to do with it about his kids, and writing notes to them and everything. And then he got a hold of the first book, and he completely changed his life around. But he was seeking it. He was looking for it, and I think that's one of the strengths of this is that. More people are going to be open to it if they're actually looking for it instead of me going, hey, do you have 5 minutes to talk about the red pill?
We want you.
Yeah.
Do you think though, in terms of, maybe I phrased it wrong about it being mainstream, but do you think that it's something that will more and more men are going to find, or do you think they're going to go in the opposite direction like a lot of them already are? Like, in other words, they're so weak and so anti-masculine. Or do you think, there'll be kind of a...
Well, I think that, like I was saying before, when I was writing Positive Masculinity, I think that so many guys have been raised in such a feminine way and such what I call feminine correct way. We raise our boys in, using teaching and learning styles and strategies that are effective with girls, but they're not effective with boys. And so we tend to treat our boys as if they are defective girls. And so you got these kids that are coming up through generations. And that's just one aspect, the academic side of things. And maybe they have a very overbearing, domineering mother. They're seeing all of this, female empowerment, strong, independent kind of stuff. So you've got generation after generation of those guys that are coming through. So there is that aspect of it for sure. I think that if there is going to be a change, if there is kind of a shift, we certainly need to be here to help them out. We certainly need to, have the tools and have what I like to call it triage. You help those who you can, and you just kind of lay out, read last rites to the dying kind of thing. But I think that it's not going to be guys like us that wake up the most amount of dudes. It's going to be women who are, triumphantly crowing about hypergamy. And you see the narratives in commercials and in movies, and it's the exact same thing where the woman is getting away with her sexual strategy above all else, and guys are starting to wake up and say, you know what, this is fucked, and I'm not going to play a party to this anymore. I'm not going to be her dutiful beta at 30 years old. I mean, the quote that I like to use from Sheryl Sandberg is she says, CEO of Facebook, her advice to young ladies is to date the bad boys and date the commitment phobic boys and basically date the alpha dudes and fuck them when you're in your party years, and then start looking for a dutiful equal beta when you get to be 30, 32, but marry those guys, and those betas eventually, in time, nothing will be sexier. Yeah. When you hear messages like that, when you and I hear messages,
she said eventually nothing will be sexier. Than the beta?
Yes, than the guy. And then
so basically,
you'll learn to love them. It's basically a textbook example of creating alpha widows.
Right.
And I've used it in at least 2 of my books, but I just keep coming back to it because I call it the Sandbergian plan for hypergamy, because that's what's going to wake guys up. That's what's going to make guys more aware, because if they keep seeing it in the mainstream, they might be a little hesitant to take advice from like a guy looking like you or me or anybody else, because they think it's a little bit weird. But I mean, nowadays I keep reading article after article after article from women who are in their early to mid 30s, and all they complain about is why can't they find a good guy? Where are all the nice guys? Or how come I can't find anybody? I can't find any guy who's my equal, which really means somebody who's above me or equal or above me. And men right now, the common complaint is that they're trying to extend their adolescences into their 30s. They're not preparing themselves. They're not going to school and bettering themselves and finding a good job, and all of this stuff that was supposed to make you a man is really all the requirements that these women want these guys to have, but yet they're following Sheryl Sandberg, who says go fuck all the alphas in their party years, and then these guys are going to be your patsy when the time comes around, and guys aren't signing up for that shit anymore. That's why they can't find them.
Isn't it true that the marriage there's less people getting married now than ever, and a lot of it is the women are saying, yeah, we can't even find a guy to marry us now.
Exactly. There's statistically, if a woman is after 33 or 34 years old, if she's not married by then, statistically, she will not get married for the rest of her life.
Jesus.
Yeah. And then we're also looking at a time where women's their providership and the beta side of things, the long-term security is being more and more met for women. So it's
Right,
so all they're really
need to get married.
yeah,
Right.
they want to get married,
Right,
but they want to get married to a guy who has status and
Right.
has money and has something going for him educationally, which is just the buzzword for I need a guy who's going to be above me and be the guy. But they spent their whole lives both fucking the bad boys in their party years, but also creating or I should say, just erasing the need for that providership in the first place. So they're only looking for like the super elite, apex fallacy, the most apex guy that they could get. And they're not good. They're not going for those girls at 34. They're going for the girls at 22.
Exactly.
So I think that if anything shifts in the future, it's going to be. I mean, we're already seeing it. Guys are just we call them the dropout generation, and they're just basically tuning out, and they're playing Xbox all day. This is the common, the trope. They're playing Xbox and they're just jerking off to online porn, and they're ordering pizza, and they don't even go out. They don't have jobs or whatever. And there's
swiping right.
Yeah, but what
especially
you said
bad
before,
in Japan too. I should say.
What you said before is like a lot of these guys, they're drawn to the red pill and these answers because of a tragedy.
Yes.
What I foresee in the future, there's going to be more and more of these fucking tragedies. It's not getting better.
Yeah.
There's going to be, well, it's not divorce. It's going to be that guy who's like hitting his late 20s, early 30s. He's like, why can't I get a girl? He'll go to the internet and Google it. That's why I think this is going to pick up more and more. Because there's going to be more and more tragedies, because you can't go on like this. This is like, we're human beings. We have to keep going. And these guys there's going to be a small percentage, but they're going to be hungry for answers. And they're going to find it somehow, some way. They're going to be the seekers. Those are the ones you want anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I worry about those guys because we were just talking a minute ago about how each of the guys that we see here all have sort of varying degrees of like social intelligence. And so it's the guys who, I've talked to guys who were virgins right up until they, read my book, or they never even kissed a girl, and we're talking about guys who are 28, 29 years old. And it to me, that's almost tragic, because I have this one post called "You Need Sex" because I really feel that that's part of a man's normal life. That's a healthy life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, are there monks who are celibate? Yeah, sure, but those are the outliers. I think that to have a full experience of life, that's part of that.
Right.
And when I see a guy who is, the 40-year-old virgin or something like that, I see that, and to me, it's tragic. It almost looks like it's like seeing somebody who's lost a limb or something, and
because they're never fully developed.
Yeah, they never really mature in that way, and I think that there comes a maturity that you need, when you love a woman, when you're with a woman, even just having sex with a prostitute would probably be better than what these guys are having to deal with.
Yep. Just get out of their system. I wanted to ask you, so do you think for a man to fully, kind of become a man and transition from boy to man, he has to go through that experience of having his heart broken?
Yeah, I do. I think that that's really hard because people don't like that. They don't.
Right.
That's usually some of the most chaotic, traumatic experiences of a guy's life. It was for me. I know that. Yeah. I probably went through it 3 or 4 times actually. Oh, yeah. But yeah, definitely that it's a learning experience, and I kind of hesitate to tell guys, you can avoid all that with this, and I'm like, you don't want to avoid that. You need to learn from that experience. Right. I mean, learn from what I'm going to give you, but also be again a student of life, so that you.
Yeah, hopefully it happens earlier than later. I had some heartbreaks in my teenage years. Yeah. Early 20s is the last heartbreak. Probably like 24 was like that was hard. I was depressed for a year after that. But I mean, the earlier the better, because if you're doing that in your 30s, you could lose your fucking job if you can't function. Because that was just unfunctional. Like that's how bad it was when I was 24. Thank God I didn't have a business.
How would you suggest someone gets it out quick though? By obviously getting out and having experiences, right? Meeting women, dating.
Not even women, just see the world, man.
Well,
that's see everything. Find something you're interested in, and just go for it. Put all your effort into it. Create something new.
Right.
That's like the best way to get over it.
I think one of the most effective things about me as a writer is because I have so much to draw upon. People will read this and they presume that I must be some super alpha, apex alpha dude, and it's like I haven't always been that guy. I mean, when I was in high school, I was very much a blue pill beta, very much I had sex when I was 17, okay, but it wasn't because I was such a badass. It was just because I happened to figure it out a little bit better than I had been able to. But I was very much a beta, very much had one eye from my first girlfriend. I was just very, wrapped up and involved in that. And then when that heartbreak happened and I ended up moving to a different town for her. And she ended up screwing this other guy, while I'd already moved. And I was gonna be the dutiful, supportive, beta provider guy from, the word go. And I was willing to do pretty much anything to keep that sexual relationship going because that was the first girl I'd ever had sex with. And then so that fell apart. And then
because you don't know yet that you could actually do that with other girls.
Exactly, and you're not. Yeah, and you're not. In preventive medicine, that's what I call the break phase. It's usually when you have your high school sweetheart and she goes off to one college and you go off to another college and she we're gonna stay together, right? No, you're not going to stay together because she's going to be fucking whoever she wants to. So there's that aspect that I can speak to. Then when I was in my rock star 20s, I was in the Hollywood rock and metal scene that was going on there. I played in bands and had long blonde hair. And it's hard to believe, I know. I had long blonde hair down to my ass. It wasn't extensions.
I want to see pictures.
I played it. I have them. I'll send
Please,
them to you.
please.
On the cover.
Yeah, put them in the back.
I want to see.
There's actually a picture that's floating around of me on stage, but it was after all that. And so that was sort of my alpha phase where I was just like, fuck it, I don't care. I don't care what's going to happen. And I finally figured out game. I didn't know I was figuring out game because there was nothing of this in like the late 80s and the early 90s. And so my game was going in and playing a gig and just sort of, just picking any girl that I wanted to get with, and I did. And that was where most of my lays came from, was during that time. And so I was this freewheeling kind of alpha dude. And then later in my mid-20s, that's when I got involved with a borderline personality disorder woman, and that's why me and
good old BPDs.
That's why me and Anthony can have can compare notes, because I went through something very, very similar to that. So I can speak to that. I can speak to being an alpha. And when I was with that BPD, I was just this close to being like Omega, because she was just beautiful, and she was crazy in bed and she was crazy out of bed, and so that's something else that I can speak to. Then once I got out of that hellhole, I was dating non-exclusively for a long time. I was actually, for the first time in my life, dating like an adult should fucking date. Like, I'm gonna date 10 girls and spin plates, and that's what all I did was spin plates. That's where all that plate spinning stuff came from. And one of those plates happened to be my wife. And so from that point on, now I can speak to other issues from being married and red pill, and all of the knowledge that I have from behavioral psychology that I've applied to red pill dynamics. So definitely, I think that there's a progression, and I think that I'm almost wary of guys who got with their high school sweetheart and then never did anything else. They only married that girl, and then like maybe they had kids when they were in their mid-20s, and maybe they did some really interesting things while they were married, but they do not have the depth of experience that you guys have, that you will be able, when you guys get to be 49 years old, you will have a depth of experience that you can speak to that those guys will never be able to talk to talk about.
Well, in closing, as we start to wrap up, you guys have any other final comments or things that you want to say about the convention or anything in general? Don't be shy.
I am shy.
You are getting shy.
You are.
You have another book coming out, don't you?
Yeah, it's going to be about the road trip around the South. Yeah,
Nice.
It's about that.
You know what you're going to call it?
No, not yet, but it's I interviewed a lot of people about the dating culture in the South, and it was interesting because different cities were different. There's online dating that's specific to different cities. There's social circle. There's all this other stuff. But yeah, I was trying to encourage people to go out and fucking do whatever you want. This isn't the 50s. This is like, and that was a great conversation too. Is like, it really, sex is repressed. Like, it's shamed, and it's a tragedy.
Specifically in the U.S.
Yeah, everybody wants to get laid, and
nobody is. And that's funny because you should say that, because less and less people have it.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy, but everybody wants it, and people need it, and it's horrible for our culture. People need to go out and have sex so that they express themselves.
And we live in such a social
Sex
we live in a
with
we live in a social condition where like guys are becoming more and more fearful to even make that approach to go
yeah.
out because you can get
Literally,
And
yeah.
talking about it, yeah,
In
if
the
you're,
last
you're gonna
year
get in
or
trouble.
so, I'd say I've really noticed specifically, I've had girls come up, or not come up, but after I've gone up to them, even if it didn't really work out or we weren't, you know, feeling each other, just like thank me. They'd be like, thank you for approaching me. Because guys just don't approach anymore.
Yeah, because they're afraid of sexual
Right, because
harassment
this is
or
the
it's a hate
rejection.
crime in the UK.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
no,
yeah, you're right. Yeah, Tinder.
We might have to lock us up, so I'm not going to stop.
I'll run.
To Mexico.
Yeah, I'll go to Mexico.
Not illegal in Mexico.
I got a whip. I'm going to Mexico.
I think that, I mean, just to wrap up here, I really think that this convention was very beneficial for everybody that came.
Absolutely.
Including the speakers themselves.
Yeah.
It's good to like, you know, connect with guys that you just know in the virtual world. It's funny, I was talking to this one guy and was saying that there are now 3 ways that we express consciousness. There's the one where we're talking to you, and that's just like open, you know, dialogue. And then there's where we have our inner dialogue. And we, you know, when I'm thinking about something, we conceptualize and we have that inner conversation with ourselves. And then there's our online dialogue now, where we're using our brains to go through and reach another brain where we're a little bit more careful about what we type.
Oh,
And
yeah, that's
it's one of the reasons I
fascinating.
hate Twitter,
That's
because it's like I
fascinating.
would rather write, you know, a whole, you know, these are what my thoughts are about it. But there's that digital expression of consciousness now too, and it was interesting to see all the people that I was digitally aware of and see them face to face and actually be able to talk to them, because they're really, you know, it's very isolating. I think that we think of the internet as this big extroversion. It's not. It's very, very
Yeah,
introverted,
I
because we're
agree.
always, you know, in front of a computer or on a cell phone or something like that. So I think if there's any real lasting value to this kind of thing, it's that you get to see people face to face, and you know that there's an actual human being on the other side
It's
of
not a
it.
bot. Right?
Yeah.
It's not a bot.
Yeah.
So speaking of the internet, where can people find you? Tell people about your Twitter, your blogs.
Oh yeah. Goldmundunleashed.com or at Twitter at Goldmund Unleash. Same thing with Instagram. I'm active all the time on Twitter, and I'll be more and more active because this conference definitely inspired me to do stuff.
Yeah. And you can find me at therationalmale.com. All my books are on Amazon. I have the first 2 are now on Audible, so if you prefer to listen to it, then most people, I was really surprised that guys really like to listen to books more
Sam's
than
voice
You had
is
Sam,
amazing.
yeah, he's so great. Sam
listen
is
to him all
seriously
the time.
awesome.
It's like
Yeah.
exciting.
Here, Sam, read the dictionary.
I know.
Yeah,
exactly.
captivating.
So,
Really is.
and I'm on Twitter. I'm Rollo Tomassi at therationalmale.com.
There it is.
And there you go.
And if you're not subscribed to the 21 Convention YouTube channel, then go ahead and make sure you subscribe when you're done watching this video. As for me, you can find me at realchristianmcqueen.com, on Twitter at the CAD Club, and also on Instagram at the CAD Club. A lot of fun videos from our adventures all over the world and whatnot. So thank you for joining us. Thank you,
Yeah,
as always, for your
anytime.
time.
Thank
Appreciate
Yeah,
having
fellas, awesome.
All right.
Sir.
Rollo.
Good to see you
Excellent.
once again.
Peace, guys.
My Red Pill brothers.